Pokemon has officially announced a Pokemon Presents for Pokemon Day 2023. This will premiere live on February 27th at 6 a.m. PST. And here's what to expect, and a couple of my predictions. If we take a look back at the last few Pokemon Day Presents, in 2021, they announced 3 new games. Friendly reminder that this was the 25th anniversary of Pokemon, so I feel like they announced maybe a little bit more than what we should expect in this year's Presents. But they announced Pokemon Snap, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, and Pokemon Legends Arceus, as well as some updates to Pokemon Masters, Pokemon Go, and Pokemon Cafe Remix. In 2022, they started the Presents off by announcing Gen 7 coming to Pokemon Go. They also announced a big update to Pokemon Cafe Mix, celebrated the Pokemon Masters 2.5 year anniversary, and announced a couple Pokemon coming to the Pokemon Unite roster. They then went to talking about the Pokemon Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl free update, which included the Shaman event, followed by the Daybreak DLC that introduced massive mass outbreaks to Pokemon Legends Arceus. And both of those updates were available to download later that day. They then finished off the Presents of 2022 by giving a sneak peek and a showcase of the first look at Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So what can we see announced on this upcoming Pokemon Day? Looking back at these last 2 Presents, I think it's safe to assume that there will be an update to Pokemon Go, which could possibly include Gen 8 Pokemon, similar to how they did with Gen 7 last year, or even introduce some Gen 9 Pokemon and finally allow us to catch the Wandering Form Gimmighoul. Because if you play Pokemon Go, you know that there was an event a little bit ago where you could collect coins and see Gimmighoul walking around in the wild, but you actually couldn't catch this. And so I think now is a good time to allow us to get it. I think it's safe to assume that there will be an update to Pokemon Cafe Mix that'll include some new Pokemon and challenges for that game. I also think it's safe to assume that we'll get a look at some new Pokemon joining the Pokemon Unite roster. They actually tweeted this teaser out on Wednesday. So I think it's safe to assume we'll probably get a trailer for this Pokemon and a little bit more information about this, alongside maybe a quick look at like a couple other Pokemon that might show up later in the year. And finally, I think it's safe to assume that we'll get some sync pairs and some gem bonuses and stuff like that in Pokemon Masters. One thing that I know a lot of people are talking about right now are the Game Boy games coming to the Nintendo Switch Online. Personally, I think it'd be like a crime to not include these in this Presents, just like I think it'd be a crime for you not to click the like and subscribe button. I just think it would make a lot of sense to announce these games coming to the Nintendo Switch Online Game Boy player. When they showed that off, they didn't show any of the Pokemon games, and I think it's safe to assume it's probably because they're waiting for Pokemon Day to announce these, and I don't really see a world where they don't bring these in at any point. And personally for me, I'd prefer that they were separate from the online library where you could just buy them and then keep them, as opposed to the online subscription. But from a business standpoint, I would completely understand why they'd want to put them and include them on the online subscription. But not only would it allow us to go back and replay and catch these Pokemon from their introductory games, it would also be a great way to segue into Pokemon Home. I think for this Presents that a Pokemon Home announcement is pretty certain, and it would allow the compatibility for Scarlet and Violet, which we don't have yet. This would include being allowed to bring Pokemon such as Hisuian Zoroark over to Scarlet and Violet, which we already know is going to be a thing based on some screenshots from way back when. And like I said, it'd be a great way to segue from the, the Game Boy games. You could just take those Pokemon from in there, plop them into Scarlet Violet, and we'd be good to go. Not only that, but if they do the Gimmighoul thing, like I mentioned in the Pokemon Go section, I really think it'd be a great way to introduce the Wandering Form Gimmighoul into Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which we haven't been able to catch up to this point. I think that they'll probably quickly mention the patch update coming to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. They made a whole post about this not too long ago, and I can leave a link to that in the description if you want to read the full thing. But I think it's safe to assume they'll at least mention that this is coming, and I think it'll probably be available to update later on or maybe directly after the Presents. Pokemon's been doing a really good job of giving us a lot of mystery gifts to redeem, and I think for Pokemon Presents for Pokemon Day, they'll probably give us a code for something. Maybe it be some gold nuggets or rare Pokeballs or just something along those lines. And I also think that they'll announce the next 7-star raid for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. The current raid right now is a Surfing Pikachu, but the problem with that is that it ends on Pokemon Day as opposed to being the one they announced for Pokemon Day. And so I think it'd be really hype to announce a big 7-star raid for this event, such as a Mewtwo, or if they do go ahead and include the Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald games to the online thing, I think it'd be a great time to announce a Rayquaza 7-star raid. So yeah, Mewtwo or Rayquaza, those are my personal guesses. I don't know, but I think that those are 2 good choices. And following that, I think we'll finally get a sneak peek at the DLC for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which I think could give a showcase of some of the new Paradox Pokemon and even give a teaser of the 3rd Legendary, which we don't really know a whole lot about. A great thing about this game that they didn't do in Sword and Shield is they directly reference DLC content or future game content in the actual game, things that we know about but we can't get to yet, or even just like little hints from the books and stuff in the school or in any of the labs. So I think it's safe to assume that we will be getting a DLC, whether it be 2 parts like the Sword and Shield one was, or possibly even one big update near the end of the year, or possibly maybe even 3 little ones, who knows. But yeah, DLC I think is probably gonna happen in this. Personally, there's a lot of connections to maybe go back to Kalos or something Kalos related. I don't think we're gonna see any Kalos stuff in this Presents. I'd love to be wrong. Kalos has some unfinished story, but I'm not sure it's gonna happen. I don't want to get my hopes up. But I think they'll finish off this Presents with a announcement of a brand new spin-off game, whether it be Pokemon Mystery Dungeon or even just a whole new concept overall. And honestly, that's where I think the Presents will end. They might even end it with the Scarlet and Violet stuff and just do the announcement for the spin-off game somewhere in the middle there. But I think that's probably everything we're gonna see. Maybe we'll see a couple other things here and there. I'm editing this video and I forgot about Pokemon Sleep. But I do think it'll be here. But I'm really not expecting them to announce like Gen 5 remakes or Gen 10 or even like a new Legends game. As much as I'd be super down for those, I don't think it's the right time for those. But maybe I'm wrong. These are, like I said, these are things that, you know, we've seen from the other Presents that kind of makes sense to include here. But overall, I believe that's probably what we'll see in this Presents. Let me know what you guys would love to see down below, and come back to this video and tell me if I'm right or wrong come Pokemon Day. I will actually be reacting live to this direct over on my Twitch channel, links down below, and there'll be a video up after that to talk about everything we've seen and even just a reaction video too. Do you think my predictions are realistic, or do you think some of them are maybe a little bit out there? But I'm gonna get on out. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure y'all take it easy, look after one another, take care of each other, but most importantly, stay happy, stay healthy, stay hydrated, and I will see you all next time. Peace.